I've got two lots of good news for you guys today. The first lot of good news that I have for you is that I worked out what's been causing the crypto markets to come down and why we actually started coming down when we hit this all-time high over here. That's the first bit of good news. The second bit of good news is that I also know exactly when this thing's going to end, and that would show you exactly when the market's going to turn up and actually turn up quite aggressively. And you can kind of see it in the altcoins. When you look at the altcoins, they have already started turning. It's not time to turn yet, but I'm going to show you exactly when the time is going to be to turn. Guys, I can't believe I actually found this indicator, and I want to share it with you today because I think it's pretty big. So, big show today. Let's get the show on the road, guys. I love you guys. You guys know me so well. Where's Run? I actually typed that, by the way. And you guys see he's playing on the terminal of truth. It actually is the terminal of truth. He's setting up some Pionex bots. Actually, funny enough, it's exactly what I was doing before the show, and we're gonna do it after the show as well. Anyway, GM, nice day today. I mean, the markets are actually much greener today. We actually had a bit of a run in the altcoins earlier, and I think it's actually going to carry on. I'm going to show you exactly why I think it's going to carry on. I'm also going to show you what actually happened with Bitcoin and why the crypto markets have been what you could say, what's the word that you could say, somewhat subdued lately. Because I found out exactly what's going on and why the crypto markets aren't really following the Nasdaq and not really following gold. Gold and Nasdaq are pretty much at all-time highs, and I'm like looking at crypto and I'm asking why isn't this at all-time highs? And I've managed to answer that question. Also, I'm going to show you how Samani may have just single-handedly kicked off the altcoin season. So lots to do today. Guys, yesterday you guys really helped me. We managed to salvage the show with your smashing of the likes. Try and do it again. Try and get as many likes as possible. Yesterday, I think we got something like, by the end of the show, we had over 1,000 likes. Let's see if we can do the same thing today. And really does help my distribution here. So please, that's all I'm asking you to do. Someone says, Run's hairdresser is wrecked. I think my hairdresser did quite a good job, guys. I think my hairdresser did quite a good job. All right, let's get into the alpha of the show today. Let's not worry about the hairdressing. Oh, Joanne Perry's back. We haven't seen Joanne for quite a while. Hello, Joe. You haven't been here for a while? Welcome back. We should try and get Arena. We haven't had Arena here for a long time. Wonder if Gaston's always here. I know I can see Gaston's here in the chat. All right, fam, lots to talk about today. I think what we need to talk about firstly is this and why the markets actually started coming down here. And actually the reason why the market started to come down here, even though if you look at the gold price is at all-time highs. And if you look at the Nasdaq pretty much very, very, very close to all-time highs. You got to ask yourself, why isn't Bitcoin actually following? And I think I've got the answer here, and it's actually got something to do with the Fed. And it's not to do with interest rates. It's actually to do with quantitative tightening. And what the Fed have effectively been doing since sometime late June is they've been effectively they've been quantitative tightening on steroids, guys. Like literally quantitative tightening on steroids. I want to show you what I mean because it hasn't actually been in the form of quantitative tightening, right? It's actually been through another mechanism. But what the Fed have been doing is they've been taking money and they've been taking liquidity out the markets. Now, when the Fed take liquidity out the markets, that effectively takes money out the markets. And that means that there's less money to buy risk assets. And that's why assets like Bitcoin and crypto are the ones that actually land up suffering first and land up suffering the most. So let's talk about what the Fed actually did, right? Remember that the US hit its national debt limit. And then when the US hit its national debt ceiling, then they couldn't spend anymore because they needed to negotiate between the Democrats and the Republicans. They needed to negotiate an increase in the debt ceiling. And so whilst they couldn't spend in this period, they started spending from what was known as the Treasury General Account. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Treasury General Account is, it's almost like a side account or a side pocket that the Treasury has to be able to spend, right? Or that the Fed has to be able to spend when it needs to spend. And it's not part of this account over here. It's almost like they've got some kind of absolute side account, right? And so what they did was, if you remember, whilst the debt ceiling was fixed and they could not spend any more from this account, they had to spend from the Treasury General Account. And they started spending from the Treasury General Account when the Treasury General Account was at about $800 billion. And you can see that what they did was over time, up until middle of July, they spent that Treasury General Account all the way down to about $300 billion. They spent about $500 billion, almost $500 billion from the Treasury General Account. The thing is that when the big, beautiful bill was signed into effect, what they had to do, what that meant was it meant that they could once again start spending from the normal account, right? So the debt ceiling was raised by $5 trillion when the big, beautiful bill was signed, from 36.1 trillion to 41.1 trillion. And then the first order of business for the Fed was to replenish the Treasury General Account. And so round about the end of June, so around the 23rd to the 30th of June, they started taking money out the market and putting it back in their Treasury General Account. And from June the 23rd to today, which is about a month and a half, they basically took 500 or 300 or 400 billion. Let me just have a look here. So they managed to replenish the account from $300 billion to 500 or $600 billion. So they took $300 billion out of the market and they put it back into the Treasury General Account. Now, they need to get the Treasury General Account back to about $800 or $850 billion, which is where they actually started. So if you look at where they actually started before they started to spend when the debt ceiling was reached, the number was at about 828. What they need to do is they need to get this account back to about $828 billion. And so for the next probably month and a half, they're going to, or maybe less, probably month, they're going to continue to take money out the market. Like if you look at the pace at which they bought, from July 30th, or from the end of July until mid-September, this actually takes us to about August 27th, they went up from 300 to 600. So in about a month and a bit, they went up 300, which means that if they were to go back all the way up to where they started, you're probably looking at about just less than another month of the Fed actually taking money out of the economy. And so what you can see is that every time that this has happened, every time the Fed has replenished the Treasury General Account, it's not good for risk assets. It's not good for Bitcoin. It's not good for risk assets. What you can also see, though, is that generally before the Treasury General Account is replenished, the market actually starts to turn. You can see it here and you can see it again here. Before the Treasury General Account is fully replenished, the market actually starts to turn. So it's quite I'm glad we realized what this is, and probably in about 2 weeks max, the market should actually start turning, and we should actually be getting back, resuming to the normal order of business, so to speak. So this guy says, he says, Treasury General Account update, 250 billion to go to meet the target of 850 by end September. That roughly works out to QT, quantitative tightening, of 60 billion per week. Could be completed sooner rather than later, depending on the rate of refill, but something to track for sure. So there's 250 billion left to go. If they keep going at the same rate they've been going, just under a month that it's going to take them to replenish this. But remember that Bitcoin usually turns before the Treasury General Account actually gets to full, which means that we probably could have another week to 2 weeks of downside, which also plays into the macro environment. So we know we've got rate cuts starting next week on the 17th of September. So next week, Wednesday, we're expecting the first series of rate cuts to actually happen. There's still 2 data points before that happens. We have to get PPI and CPI. Tomorrow we're getting PPI. The next day we get CPI. Hopefully, no bad surprises there. But otherwise, I mean, the market's pretty much 100% priced in rate cuts, and there's no way we're not going to get rate cuts. And so that would effectively mean that we should get a very, very, very strong Q4. And I want you to hear this interview with Tom Lee yesterday.
Hey, Tom, Bitcoin, before we let you go, tell us what you think. We're at about $111,000. The upside, the downside from here?
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies like Ethereum are super sensitive to monetary policy. So I think that September 17th is an important catalyst. Crypto typically does really well in the fourth quarter. So I think Bitcoin can easily get to 200,000 before year end. I know it's a big move. It's almost a double, but that's also going to be
a double from here. Let's just hold on. Let's just take a quick pause. A double from here. So everybody's listening to this. We're at $111,000, and you think by Christmas time, effectively, we could be at 200,000?
That's right. One of the reasons Bitcoin stalled this year is the Fed's been on pause for 9 months. That pause all year, if you look at an easing cycle, that's only happened 2 other times, in 1998 and 2024, where the Fed began to resume cuts in the fourth quarter in September. Equities do really well. As you know, crypto is beta to equity. So I think it's going to be a very strong fourth quarter. Small caps should also rally, like IWM, but that also is really bullish for Ethereum, which is highly linked to small caps.
So you see, he's talking about the Fed and the last time that the Fed started cutting rates in the fourth quarter. And the last time that happened was actually 2024. Now, most of us were here in 2024, and you remember what happened towards the end of 2024, but that was almost like a mini blow off top or a mini bull market. And what you can see, 2024, last quarter, was a very, very, very strong quarter. In fact, you can probably see that over here. 2024, we had a 50% quarter on Bitcoin and a 28% quarter on ETH. So the rate cuts are, effectively the rate cuts are starting next week. And that can give us a very, very, very strong fourth quarter. And what I suspect, and he also spoke about the small caps being running in the small quarter. He spoke about IWM, which is the Russell 2000, which is stocks, but that will filter down into the small cap crypto assets, which is actually, which I think what he's referring to is actually the altcoins. Also, what I think is going to happen in the fourth quarter is we're going to have the catch-up trade from Bitcoin, for Bitcoin back to become correlated with the Nasdaq. Because as I mentioned to you, what happened was Bitcoin kind of decorrelated from the Nasdaq and actually decorrelated from gold. Gold's at all-time highs, Nasdaq's at all-time highs, Bitcoin's not at all-time highs. And so what's happening here is we've got a decorrelation between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq. Now, the last couple of times that we had a decorrelation between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq, we had a massive, massive, massive catch-up trade. So you can see that over here. And then we had the massive Bitcoin catch-up trade. And now you're seeing it again over here. So we could get a massive Bitcoin catch-up trade. You can actually see it a bit better, I think, on this chart, where you can see. Let's see if we can just get rid. Okay, so you can kind of see that there's a massive Bitcoin catch-up trade to get Bitcoin to catch up to the Nasdaq and to get Bitcoin to catch up to gold. Now, Tom mentioned a number of 200,000 by the end of the year. If you just look at the lag in between Bitcoin and gold, and Bitcoin and the M2, so you take global money supply, and then you take gold, and you take the Bitcoin price. And you correlate all those. So you look at gold versus Bitcoin performance with a 200-day lag and global M2 versus Bitcoin performance with a 102-day lag. The charts are pointing to about 167 to 185 in Q4. Now, to me, that 167 and 185, that's not the blow-off top. I don't think we're going to have a blow-off top for a long period of time. I think we're going to have a massive run. And you can see it in multiple indicators when you talk about the massive run. The ones that I showed you, there's another one here which shows the S&P Bollinger Bands. In fact, Bollinger Bands, when I say Bollinger Bands talk about volatility. And if you look at the Bollinger Bands, when the Bollinger Bands are squeezed, it means that the volatility on the market is very, very, very low. And usually that preempts quite a massive move. Now, you can see it over here on the S&P. When you have very low Bollinger Bands, you actually get a move. Now, the move can be up or down. I'm assuming because we're in a bull market and because the momentum is forward, that move's going to be up. And the same thing in Bitcoin. You can see the last couple of times that the Bollinger Bands were that squeezed. Because we're in a bull market, we managed to get massive, massive, massive moves up in Bitcoin. So you're looking at very, very, very tight Bollinger Bands. And you're looking at a decorrelation between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq, and together that could really take us to the 160, 170, 180, and maybe even 200,000. And combine that also with now we know the reason why the market's been lagging, and we know the reason why it hasn't really been firing as much as we wanted to fire. And I think it all starts to make sense. As I said, though, I don't think that that's the blow off top. I don't think that that's the cycle top. I do hear people talking about the cycle top. It's not the cycle top. I told you before. I actually even made a video on the other channel. If you want, there's a link here to the video on the other channel. And I've actually called this the ultimate ultra cycle, because I don't think it's a super cycle. I think it's much longer than that. I think if you watch that video, you'll see that I'm actually calling for a bull market that may last like another year and a half. And I'm calling that bull market, I'm calling it the ultimate ultra cycle. So if you get a chance, go and watch that video. Really a good video to watch. The videos on the other channel are much shorter. So these videos are like 30, 40 minutes. This video is 12 minutes. So it's literally going to take you, if you do it on 2-speed, 6 minutes. If you do 2-speed. Hardest, do you do 2-speed? You do 1-speed. Yeah. I mean, Julian Bittel from Real Vision, I mean, he also says that he's been seeing a lot of chatter on X about how the economy looks like a late cycle, so he wants to tackle it head on. And he gave the more macroeconomic outlook, and even that he says there's no way that the cycle is actually starting to top. None of the indicators are anywhere near a top. When markets top, there's normal patterns, there's familiar patterns that happen. And none of the familiar patterns have actually started to happen. Anyway, I break that all down in the other channel. If you get a chance, go and have a look at the other channel. Because here on this channel, I actually want to start talking about the altcoins now. The reason why I want to start talking about the altcoins is because there's a lot going on in altcoins. We're getting big movement now in altcoins all of a sudden. We had some wild moves. I mean, we had WorldCoin, which had a wild move. It's come back slightly. It was at $2.13. I want to show you what actually happened there. But I think more importantly, we need to understand what actually happened with altcoins, right? So what happened with altcoins is, I think that what happened yesterday when Samani and the guys announced their digital asset treasury company, I think that actually changed the charts. Now, you'll remember that I made a video. You can actually see exactly when I made that video. I made that video somewhere around here. And I said to you, I think this is where Sol's bottoming. And here's the video over here. It was made 3 weeks ago. Let's see if it actually... So 12th of August, you can see that's the date where I made this video. So on the 12th of August, I made a video and I said to you, if you hold Solana, I've got bullish news for you. I think that Solana is going to turn. That was 12th of August. Literally, that was the bottom. I mean, you could not have called it more spot on the bottom. August 12th, here it is. August 12th, I've got the receipts to prove it. See? I mean, you cannot call it better than that. And I think that the thing that's actually turned this chart was when they started raising money from the digital asset treasury company. And that was the biggest initial digital asset treasury raise that's ever been done. They raised 1.65 billion. Now, initially I thought that 1.65 billion may also include some locked Solana, but it actually doesn't. It doesn't include any locked Solana. All that Solana that is in that digital asset treasury company is going to be bought on the open market. And so what that has done is it's actually put pressure on the Solana chart. And that's why you can see the Sol ETH chart has started to turn. The Sol BTC chart also started to turn as a result, because now Sol is starting to outperform Bitcoin and starting to outperform Solana. And so much so that the Sol BTC chart actually has a golden cross. So you can see there's a little golden cross here in the Sol BTC chart. And so very, very, very bullish for Sol. But not only is it bullish for Sol, it's actually very, very, very bullish for altcoins in general, because people move from Bitcoin to ETH and then ETH to the major other altcoins. By getting $1 billion into Solana, what's effectively going to happen is you're going to get the Solana ecosystem starting to run. So all those tokens that we put into our Solana ecosystem portfolio, you can see some of them over here. This is, by the way, we opened this portfolio on Blowfin. I don't know. I bought some 𝗟𝗀𝗽𝗧𝗢. Okay, great. I'll keep it. Drift, Pumpfun, Jito, Radium, Jupiter, Solana. Look, some of them we're down, some of them we're up. But in general, we actually up quite a bit on this portfolio. And I really think that it might be time to start buying the Sol beta plays. Now, the reason why I think it's time to start buying the Sol beta plays, you know that Multicoin Capital is invested very, very, very much in Solana, but they're also invested in things like Render, Pith, Jito, Drift. They invested in the whole Solana ecosystem. And I think that the $1 billion that they raised for Solana is going to have some spillover effect into the Solana ecosystem. So if you're not already invested heavily in the Solana ecosystem, you should consider building a portfolio of Solana things. I did this on Blowfin. If you want to follow me on Blowfin, there's a link below for you guys to open accounts on Blowfin. I put Drift, Pumpfun, and remember, I did this quite systematically. I invested half my money, and I did it on 2 and 3x leverage, which means that I'm actually not taking a lot of risk, but I'm actually amplifying my upside. There was a video that I actually made about that. The other good thing for altcoins is you can see that the others versus ETH chart. So like that means smaller altcoins versus Ethereum. That's also started to turn now. So that like Ethereum was outperforming all the altcoins. And what you can see is it's the first time that we've actually put in a higher high on that chart, which means that it looks like the altcoins have started to, God bless our souls. Veen's very, very cool. God bless all of our souls. And let God bless your soul and your soul and your soul. Everybody's Solana. Everybody's Solana. So you can see that the altcoins have turned the corner around ETH, which is quite a big thing because they've broken chart structure. You've now got a higher high, and yeah, I think we need to just wait for a higher low, but for a higher low. But we've got a higher high on the others versus ETH chart, which is a very bullish sign if you're into alts. Also on the others versus ETH chart, if you look on the 1 week time frame and you look at the RSI, you've got an RSI crossover here. Now those RSI crossovers are pretty lethal. I mean, look what happens when you get those RSI crossovers. So good news all around for the altcoins. As I said to you, also others versus BTC, also putting in a golden cross. So the charts have very, very, very much turned. And I mean, you didn't need to. I mean, you can just look at the bubbles. The bubbles are pretty much showing you that the charts have pretty much turned. So all in all, we know what has been keeping this market down. We know now that it's going to end very soon. A week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe. If I don't do it all they'll do it all in 3 weeks. We've got Jerome Powell talking next week, Wednesday. When he talks next week, Wednesday, we've got to listen out for things around the end of quantitative tightening, etc., etc. So that's that. The other trade that we got into yesterday, I mean, I hope you guys actually caught this trade. If you did, well done. I remember I opened this bot yesterday. Did I open it on the show? Yeah, I opened it on the show. So on the show, I opened up this bot, remember? And I put in, so already that trade made 128%. 1 day. Remember I invested. And so I've made $3,850 here, and I've made $230 on the grid. Can you believe it? I've made, wow, that's insane. In 1 day, I've made 10% on the grid, and I've made 120%. I wouldn't be getting into this specific bot now because WorldCoin has actually run already. So don't get into this one. But you can go and follow all the other ones. You can go and follow all the Drift and all the Jupiter and all the Solana ones. All these bots are still amazing. If you want a link to these bots in the bottom of the show, just follow all my bots here. Just go and open an account on Pionex. When you do, you can get up to $1,000 sign-up bonus, and then you can follow those bots. When I opened this trade, I didn't know that WorldCoin was going to be listed on Upbit. And this morning it got listed on Upbit. And when it did get listed on Upbit, that took the price up to $2.20. Again, this is one of my highest conviction plays, very, very long term. So I don't think this is going to be one of those ones that runs and runs and runs like a crazy altcoin, but it's a very, very, very high conviction altcoin. The other one that I want to talk about today, and I've spoken about it a lot of times, is Athena. They had a very big announcement today, probably their biggest announcement ever. And the announcement is that they're actually integrating USDE into Binance. I mean, that is absolutely, absolutely huge. You're talking about 280 million users now having access to USDE. And they'll be able to trade while earning Athena rewards, Athena interest. Now, for those of you who don't understand how Athena works, Athena effectively rewards. Athena is a stable coin, and that stable coin makes its money, or the holders of that stable coin make their money through the leverage rates or the market appetite, right? So when the market appetite goes wild, the leverage rates go wild, and therefore the Athena holders land up making more money, right? So if you look at if you go look at CoinGlass, let me just I'll show it to you quite simplistically, and you go to funding rates towards the end, or towards as the cycle gets more heated, effectively the funding rates, the borrowing rates go up a lot. And when these borrowing rates go up a lot, that is when Athena holders start to make money, because Athena holders actually capture this yield. Now, why is that such a big thing? Because what most people don't actually realize is the following. When you've got interest rates about to go down, So right now, people are earning 4.25 to 5%. Sorry, 4.25 to 5% by investing in treasuries and interest rates things. But as the interest rates start going down, there's going to be a lot of money. So two things are going to happen. One, there's going to be a lot of money chasing yield because they're not getting yield on the markets anymore. The second thing is, as interest rates go down, the economy gets more heated. The economy gets more heated. Then, as the economy gets more heated, more money flows into crypto. And that starts a much more aggressive bull market. Now, in a much more aggressive bull market, what generally ends up happening is people take more leverage. When people take more leverage, that's going to be good for Athena. So we're really moving into Athena's part of the cycle now, where the cycle gets heated, leverage goes up, people take more leverage. Athena holders land up earning a lot more. And at the same time, normal interest rates start going down. So people aren't getting interest on the normal interest rates. So that's what's happening with Athena. So big things happening. One, the Binance integration. Two, the drop in interest rates. But with the Binance integration, with Binance USDE listing, Athena switch fee is going to get turned on. And that unlocks $500 million of buybacks. And so actually, just before all of this happened, 𝗟𝗀𝗽𝗧𝗢𝗏 wallet, we actually track 𝗟𝗀𝗽𝗧𝗢𝗏𝗧's wallet. And 𝗟𝗀𝗽𝗧𝗢𝗏𝗧's wallet was actually starting to buy Athena. So I don't know if you want to follow him, not follow him, but ultimately, Athena is a good one. I also have, again, I've got my Athena bot here, and I think my Athena bot is actually making quite a bit of cash. Let's actually have a look here. My pump fund one's also up like 200% already. It's crazy. These bots are absolutely fun. Here's my Athena one, up 48% already. Yeah. So pumping on the Athena one also. What else? Okay, the other thing that's happening today is AI. We haven't had an AI narrative in a long time. Now, I don't know if it was the WorldCoin thing that sparked off the AI narrative, but we definitely got an AI narrative starting to come back right now. So if you look at a lot of the AI coins, a lot of the AI coins actually started moving today. See if we can see it here. Render started moving. Obviously, WorldCoin started moving, etc. And at the same time, actually, a new AI blockchain was launched. It's an AI blockchain called Open Ledger. Now, I know the guys here. We're not investors. We wanted to invest, but if you look at the people that invested in this round, very strong investors, like people like Polychain, Balaji. So this is a very solid dev project. Now, what this is effectively an AI blockchain which allows users to monetize their own data, basically. So this is basically what it is. It's called Open Ledger. I wanted to invest. I didn't end up investing, unfortunately. We just couldn't agree on terms. And also, there were such big investors in that round that there was actually no space, to be honest. But these guys have actually just listed. They had a very good listing yesterday. So very good guys, very smart guys. So it's gone down since the listing, but it's still sitting at about $1 billion fully diluted market cap, which is, I think for this chain, that's actually pretty cheap, to be honest. And they are listed on Blowfin. So what we arranged for you guys, if you want, I mean, no obligations to take it, but if you want, we arranged. Let me show you something. Let me try and find it for you. So you've got, oh man, hold on. What did I do? Okay, so you've got a link here. If you open up an account on Blowfin and you click on this link, you'll get a $15 bonus immediately, and then you take 20x leverage, and then you got yourself a $300 position on Open Ledger. So Open Ledger is a good AI one. I think there is an AI narrative very much coming on here. I think when the AI narrative comes on here, you're also going to get NEAR and all the AI blockchains actually running. So like I saw NEAR actually for the first time in a while actually had quite a good move. I don't know if you guys follow NEAR, but there's a thing called NEAR Intense, which is a cross-chain messaging and swaps layer. And I mean, this thing's actually like really exploding. I don't know. I saw some stats yesterday. They crossed over $1 billion in volume. So, I mean, there is stuff happening at NEAR. I don't know if they've lived up to the expectation of being the AI blockchain, but I do think in time they will actually end up doing that. Yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. Is there anything else today? Let's check the news terminal. We've got to check the news terminal. Yeah, you see, now I've learned a trick. I paused the feed. I paused the feed in the news terminal today. Let's actually quickly, got a few minutes. Let's maybe do some news trading. What have I done here? Why have I paused my feed? I paused it now. Hold on, let me just quit that. And let me open it up again. Okay, here it comes. And now the noises are going to begin. So let's see if there's been any big things that we've missed while we've been on the show. Because I've made a rule of not running the news terminal while I'm on shows. Because then you can't concentrate on the show. The big news that broke here was the world coin listed on Upbit. That broke over here. There was also another bit of news today around, here we go, here, starting to beep again. Hot wallet, from hot wallet to WF Labs, $200,000 worth of Ethereum. Okay, that's not a big one. Yeah, guys, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.